Welcome viewers. Today I will be talking on diagonalization. This lecture is in continuation to my earlier lecture on diagonalization. There I had discussed diagonalization of real matrices. Today I will discuss diagonalization of complex matrices. This lecture constitutes two parts: the unitarily diagonalizable and application to the concepts applied to solution of system of ordinary differential equations. I will first start with unitary matrices. So, a unitary matrix is defined as a matrix with complex entries satisfying the condition that A inverse is equal to A star. Here A star is transposed conjugate, and that means we first take the transpose and then we take the conjugate, or we first take the conjugate and then take the transpose, and the matrix is the same as A inverse. So, first thing is that A has to be invertible, only then we can say that A inverse is equal to A star. And if the matrix happens to be a real matrix, then A star is nothing but A transpose, because conjugate of a real matrix is the matrix itself. So, A star is nothing but A transpose, and in that case we have a unitary matrix as the same as orthogonal matrix. In other words, we say that a real unitary matrix is orthogonal matrix, because there will have A inverse is equal to A transpose. Similarly, we define normal matrices. A square matrix A with complex entries is called normal if A star is equal to A star A. So, this product A with A star, that is transpose conjugate, and A star multiplied by A, they should be equal. The difference here is that if A star is equal to A star A is equal to identity, then we can write down A inverse is equal to A star, but still the product may not be identity, but still these two products are equal, and then we say the matrix A is a normal matrix. So, every Hermitian matrix is a normal matrix, because A star is equal to A star A if it is a normal matrix, but we know that A star is equal to A for a Hermitian matrix. What is Hermitian matrix? Hermitian matrix is a matrix with complex entries, so that A star is equal to A. So, when A star equal to A, then this product as well as this product equal to A square, which satisfies the condition of normal matrices, and that is why we say that every Hermitian matrix is a normal matrix, and every unitary matrix is normal. It is just an extension of what we have discussed just now. You can check that A star is equal to A star, A is equal to I. So, this is I, but both of them are equal. This is what is required for a normal matrix, and that is why we say that every unitary matrix is a normal matrix. So, let us elaborate this with this example A, where I have a matrix of 2 by 2 order. Here some of the elements are complex. We have to check whether it is normal or not. So, for this purpose I have to first constitute A star. So, first I will take the conjugate and then transpose. The conjugate of this matrix means a particular element here will be transposed here. So, 1 plus I transpose 1 plus I, its conjugate is 1 minus I. Conjugate means this imaginary part will be negated, and then 1 minus I will become 1 plus I. So, this is A star, and when we take the transpose, row becomes columns, and 1 minus I, first row will become first column and second row will become second column. So, that is the transpose, and if you compare this matrix with the given matrix, we can notice that this is nothing but A. So, A star is equal to A. So, it is this matrix A star is equal to A. So, it is a Hermitian matrix, and we have already proved that Hermitian matrix is a normal matrix, and in this sense the given matrix A is normal matrix. So, now I state some simple results and I leave them to the viewers. They can prove them. First simple result is, if A is unitary, then row vectors form an orthonormal set, and if row vectors form an orthonormal set, then the matrix is unitary. We write this as A is unitary if and only if row vectors form an orthonormal set. This result is not only true for row vectors, this is applied to column vectors also, and the results read like this: A is unitary if and only if column vectors form an orthonormal set. This is first result to be proved by the viewers. The second is, the unitary matrix have eigenvalues such that the magnitude of an eigenvalue is 1. So, all the eigenvectors, all the eigenvalues in unitary matrix have magnitude 1. So, this is another result which is to be proved by the viewers. Now, in this example, a matrix is given. You have to show that it is a unitary matrix. So, 2 by 2 matrix, it has complex entries, and what we do is we consider the row vectors of A. They are 1 plus I by 2 and 1 plus I by 2, and the second row vector is 1 minus I by 2 and minus 1 plus I by 2. So, these are 2 row vectors. We calculate their magnitude. So, norm of R1 bar is equal to square of first component plus square of second component, and mod of 1 plus I square is equal to real part square plus imaginary part square divided by 2. So, it is 1 plus 1 2 divided by square of this 4. So, this number is equal to 1 by 2. Similarly, this is also 1 by 2. So, we have 1. So, norm of row vector is 1. Then on the same lines, one can find the norm of second vector, and it is 1 minus I by 2 magnitude of this plus minus 1 plus I by 2, this is the second component and its square, and when you calculate this, it is 1 by 2 and this is also 1 by 2. So, sum of this is equal to 1. Now, R1 dot R2, that is inner product of R1 and R2, it is 1 plus I by 2 multiplied by 1 minus I by 2 and its conjugate plus 1 plus I by 2 into minus 1 plus I by 2 its conjugate. And when you perform this multiplication, this comes out to be 1 plus I by 2 and conjugate of this is 1 plus I by 2 plus this remains as such, but its conjugate will be minus 1 minus I by 2. So, this is, one can take this minus common and it is 1 plus I by 2 and 1 plus I by 2 with negative sign. So, this cancels out with this, and what we have is that inner product of R1 and R2, that is R1 dot R2 is 0. So, what we have is, we have two rows R1 and R2, their dot product is 0 and their magnitude is equal to 1, and that means the matrix which is given to us has row vectors which are orthonormal. They are normal because of this, they are orthonormal because their magnitudes are 1. So, in this way we say that A star is equal to A inverse, it is a unitary matrix. So, this we are not actually evaluating A inverse and then saying A inverse equal to A star, we are saying that this matrix has row vectors which are orthonormal, and that is how we prove A inverse is equal to A star. Actually, we are applying the result which we have stated in my earlier slides. This means that the matrix A is unitary matrix. Now, before we proceed further, we will verify this. Now, if A inverse is equal to A star, then the product of the two matrices should be identity. So, we verify this and we calculate this A into A star is equal to, this is what I have, the matrix A, and this is A star, and when we multiply it, this multiplied by this multiplied by this is 1, this row multiplied by this column is 0, this row multiplied by this column is 0, and this multiplied by this is 1. So, A star is equal to identity matrix. Now, we define unitarily diagonalizable matrices. We say that a square matrix A with complex entries is unitarily diagonalizable if there exists a unitary matrix P such that P inverse AP is diagonal. So, basic difference is the matrix is diagonalizable. We should have a matrix P which is invertible such that P inverse AP is diagonal, but the difference here is the matrix P is not only invertible, but it is unitary matrix. So, if we can find such a matrix P, then we say the matrix A is unitarily diagonalizable. Now, to prove this, we say that the following are equivalent. First, A is unitarily diagonalizable, and the second is A has an orthonormal set of n eigenvectors, and third statement is A is normal. That means A is unitarily diagonalizable if it is normal. And if A is normal matrix, then eigenvectors from different eigenspaces of A are orthogonal. Not only orthogonal, but they are orthonormal. This particular result forms a basis for a procedure for unitarily diagonalizing a given matrix. So, let us discuss a procedure for unitarily diagonalizing a matrix. The step 1 is find a basis for each eigenspaces of A. In the step 2, we apply Gram-Schmidt process to orthonormalize the basis for each eigenspace of A. And finally, in the step 3, we form the matrix P whose columns are the orthonormal basis. Now, in the next example, we illustrate this procedure for unitarily diagonalizing a given matrix A. So, in this example, a matrix A is given as a 2 by 2 matrix. We are considering 2 by 2 matrices because they are simple. So, you have to find a unitary matrix P which will diagonalize this given matrix A. To find matrix P, we have to first obtain the eigenvalues and then corresponding eigenvectors. For this, we first write down the characteristic equation for the given matrix A. So, the characteristic equation for this is the determinant lambda minus 2 minus 1 plus I minus 1 plus I and lambda minus 3. One can simplify it. It is lambda minus 2 into lambda minus 3 plus 1 plus I into minus 1 plus I. Perform this multiplication and it is lambda square minus 5 lambda plus 6 this part, and from here we will get minus 1 minus 1, and that gives us lambda square minus 5 lambda plus 4 equal to 0, and when you factorize it, it is lambda minus 1 into lambda minus 4 equal to 0, and that gives us the eigenvalues as lambda is equal to 1 and lambda is equal to 4. To get the eigenvectors corresponding to these eigenvalues, we have to solve this equation a minus lambda I multiplied by x equal to 0. So, let us write down a minus lambda I, x equal to 0. So, it is 2 minus lambda 1 plus I, 1 minus I, 3 minus lambda x equal to 0, and for lambda is equal to 1, we have to solve this equation. We will get eigenvectors corresponding to lambda is equal to 1, and when we solve this equation for lambda is equal to 4, we will get eigenvector corresponding to lambda is equal to 4. So, first for lambda is equal to 1, this equation become 1, 1 plus I, 0, 1 minus I, 2, 0. This is an augmented matrix corresponding to this system. So, this system can be transformed. I am writing only the this part, the coefficient matrix part here. I have applied elementary transformation, and this will only the coefficient matrix is written here because this will not be affected. So, we will transform this matrix to this matrix, and from here one can notice that this augmented matrix will finally become this matrix, and this matrix has one row completely 0, and that means we can have eigenvector of given matrix as minus 1 plus I k into k, where k is an arbitrary value. This is an eigenvector corresponding to lambda is equal to 1, and when we write k is equal to 1, then let us say the eigenvector u becomes minus 1 plus I and 1. This indicates that it is a column vector, so it is a transpose here. So, u is a column vector which is actually an eigenvector corresponding to lambda is equal to 1. On the same lines, we can get eigenvalues, we can find eigenvector corresponding to lambda is equal to 4. So, we consider this augmented matrix, apply elementary transformations, number of elementary transformations are required, and finally, this matrix will reduce to this matrix with one row completely reduced to 0, and from here one can easily write down the eigenvector as 1 plus I times k into 2k, because this will satisfy this equation, and that means the eigenvector is 1 plus I in comma 2 when we write k is equal to 1. So, we have another eigenvector. So, in this sense u1 is equal to minus 1 plus I by root 3 comma 1 by root 3. This is what we have obtained after normalizing the given vector u, and this is a row vector because I am not writing transpose here. So, it is a u vector. So, u1 is equal to minus 1 plus I by root 3 comma 1 by root 3 is a orthonormal vector. Its magnitude is 1, and v1 is 1 plus I by under root 6 and 2 over under root 6, because the magnitude of v1 is 1 by root 6. So, v1 is a row vector with this as the first component and this is the second component, and it is again a row vector. Now, u1 and v1 form a set of orthonormal vectors. Their dot product is 0 and each of them is of magnitude 1, and that means we have a matrix P which is having the two vectors as column vectors. This is first column vector, this is second column vector, and these column vectors are having magnitude 1 and their dot product is 0. So, they are orthonormal, and this characteristic makes the matrix P as a unitary matrix. And then P inverse AP is equal to a diagonal matrix. So, here we have, in this particular step, we have found a matrix P which is unitary matrix for the given matrix. So, we say that P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix. Basically, we are applying the result which we have already stated. The proof has not been given here, and the proof of that theorem can again be left to the readers. So, P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix, and the diagonal elements here are the eigenvalues of the matrix A. They are 1 and 4. So, in this way we say that A is unitarily diagonalizable. Now, here we discuss applications to eigenvalue problem to the system of differential equations. Consider the system of differential equations in two variables x and y. X and y are two dependent variables depending upon an independent variable t, and we write the first equation as the first order differential equation relating the derivative dx by dt with x and y. So, we say dx by dt is equal to ax plus by, a and b being constants. And the second equation also relates derivative with respect to y with the variables x and y. So, dy by dt is equal to cx plus dy. So, here we have two equations, two differential equations which are of first order. They are coupled because first equation involves x as well as y, and the second equation in y also involves the variable x. So, this is coupled with x and this is coupled with y. So, we have a system of coupled first order differential equations. Now, this system can be written in this form, in this matrix form. Here d by dt of this matrix x y. So, we have a column vector on the left hand side and we have taken its derivative. So, left hand side is d by dt of x y is equal to a, B, C, D. This is the coefficient matrix on the right hand side multiplied by the column vector x y, and this is 2 by 2 matrix. This is a column vector, this is a column vector, and we write the dynamical system. We call this as the dynamical system, and we write it as dx by dt is equal to ax. I denote this matrix by A, this column as x. So, this is nothing but dx by dt, and the whole system is dx by dt is equal to ax. So, x is a column vector in R2 because dimension of x is 2. So, x belongs to R2. Now, together with this differential equation, it is not a single equation, it is actually a system of equations, and this system of two differential equation can be written in a compact form in this matrix differential equation, and this has to be solved under specific initial conditions. So, we specify the initial conditions as x at t is equal to 0 is equal to x naught. Actually, this condition simply means that x at t is equal to 0 is x naught and y at t is equal to 0 is y naught. So, that initial condition is also written in a compact form, and this system is called a dynamical system. We call it dynamical system because it is changing with time. So, we are considering how the dynamics of the vector x is changing with time. So, that is the meaning of a dynamical system. Now, we generalize this concept and we write down dx by dt is equal to ax, where x belongs to Rn. So, earlier I have written a matrix equation in two variables, but x need not be belonging to R2, it may be a column vector consisting of n components. In that case, we say x belongs to Rn, and this equation dx by dt is equal to ax means that A is a square matrix of order n. Now, 1 represents a homogeneous system of n linear first order differential equations in n differentiable variables, because x is a column vector. So, this left hand side is actually n terms, on the right hand side we have this product, and x is a column vector. So, actually this system represents n differential equations, because each equation is having d by dt involved in it, and since we are considering derivatives, so we should have the functions as differentiable functions, all these variables should be differentiable. We call this as a homogeneous system because all the terms on the right hand side, they are involving x or y. There is no term which is free of the variable x and y. So, there is no constant matrix added here, and in this sense we say this represents a homogeneous system of n differential equations. Each equation is linear in its own right, and that is why it is a linear system of differential equations. The vector x1, which is having n components, is a column vector. We say it is a solution of the given system 1 if it satisfies the system of ordinary differential equations, or in short we say it ODE. So, any function which satisfies this differential equations is called the solution of this system. So, we denote this solution vector as x1. All solutions of 1 will form a subspace of the vector space of differentiable real valued n vector functions. If you look at this, this is a solution. What is x1? x1 has to be a function of t, it has to be a differentiable function. x2 also has to be a differentiable function, because all this is, they are to be substituted here. If any of them is not differentiable, then you cannot say that it is dx by dt. When you cannot form dx by dt, there is no question of satisfying this differential equation. So, first thing is that this has to be differentiable function, and when you substitute it here, this should satisfy this differential equation. So, this each solution vector is a vector in n dimension. So, if we consider all vectors which is having n components, each of them is a differentiable function, then it will form a vector space. But if we consider all the solution space, that is the space constituting the solutions of this differential equation, then we say it will form a subspace of this vector space of n differentiable vector functions. The next, if x1, x2, xn are solutions of a system 1, then for arbitrary constants the linear combination x is also a solution. So, xt is written as c1 x1 plus c2 x2 plus cn xn. If we can write down the solution as xt consisting of this, then we say that x1, x2, xn is a fundamental system for 1. The initial condition x0 is equal to x10. If we denote the initial condition in this manner, then when we substitute this initial condition here, then all these constants c1, c2, cn can be obtained. So, in this state, at this state, these are arbitrary constants. So, x1, x2, xn, they are n solutions, their linear combination is also a solution, but if we use this initial condition, then all these c1, c2, cn will be determined, and what we have is a particular solution. So, a particular solution is the solution obtained using initial conditions, which will be free of arbitrary constants. So, these n conditions used with this will eliminate these arbitrary constants, and what we have is a solution free of arbitrary constants, and that such a solution is called a particular solution. The problem of determining the solution of system 1 with given initial condition is known as initial value problem. So, let us consider dx by dt is equal to a1, a2, an and n by n diagonal matrix multiplied by the column vector x1, x2, xn, which is nothing but x, together with the initial condition x0 is equal to x0. So, this constitute an eigenvalue problem, but it is a special case in the sense that the matrix A happens to be a diagonal matrix. That means only diagonal entries are non-zero, rest of the entries are zeros. I am considering this because this is easy to solve. So, let us solve this system. Here you can reduce this system as dx1 by dt is equal to a1 x1. So, this equation is no more coupled with rest of the equations. Dx2 by dt is equal to a2 times x2. It is again decoupled with other equations. So, if the equations are decoupled, especially when we have a diagonal matrix here, then each equation can be solved independent of other equations. So, we first solve the first equation in the system, that is dx1 by dt is equal to a1 into x1. This is the first order differential equation and it is very easy to solve, and its solution will be x1 into x1 is equal to x10 e times e or exponential at. Here what is x10 is the arbitrary constant, and we can calculate this using this initial conditions. Similarly, we can calculate the second solution, dx2 by dt is equal to a2 into x2 and so on. So, in general the solution of this system is written as xi is equal to xi0 e a I t. I will take values from 1 to n. I is equal to 1 will have solution of first equation, I is equal to 2 will have solution of second equation and so on. So, this is a general solution. Once we have obtained this, then x is equal to x1 comma x2 comma xn, and then the column vector is a solution of system 1, this system 1. So, this represents a solution of this equation, and if we substitute these values the way we have computed here, this is the solution vector of this differential equation. And with this, the general solution is written in this form, where I have written this first term as x10100 the column vector EA1t, and the second corresponding to this I have written x20 a column vector multiplied by EA2t and so on. So, if you sum it up, it will be first component will be x10 EA1t, only this contribution will be coming. For the second term, contribution will be coming from this term only, and for the nth term it is contribution is coming from this term. So, one can write this general solution in this form. So, xt is a linear combination of these solutions. We illustrate this with this example. So, if I have given a 3 by 3 system dx1 by dt, d by dt of x2 dt and d by dt of x3 is equal to this diagonal matrix multiplied by the column vector x1, x2, x3. So, let us solve this system. This has diagonals 1, minus 2 and minus 1, minus 2 and 3, and that makes x1 is c1 et, x2 as c2 e minus 2t and x3 as c3 e3 t, and that means xt is equal to c1 times the column vector 100 et plus c2 times the column vector 010 e minus 2t plus c3 as 001 e3 t. So, we have obtained the general solution. Now, if the matrix is given, if the matrix A is given in the diagonal form, then things are simple, but if A is not diagonal, then system can be transformed to a diagonal system and then we can solve it. And here comes the importance of diagonalization, what we have discussed. in these lectures. So, if the matrix A can be diagonalized as this D is equal to P inverse AP, then we can solve the dynamical system dx by dt is equal to Ax, x belonging to Rn on the same lines as I have illustrated just now. So, if this is the system given to us, then we can change the variable x to Pu. So, u is a new variable and we write down x as Pu. With this transformation, P be invertible constant matrix, then we can pre-multiply the given equation by P inverse. So, before we apply this transformation, we have to make sure that P is invertible and it is a constant matrix. So, if we do that, then P inverse dx by dt is equal to P inverse Ax. Since P inverse is a constant matrix, so we can write down this left hand side as d by dt of P inverse x, and that is why I have assumed that it is invertible and constant matrix. So, left hand side is this and right hand side is P inverse A, and this x I am replacing by Pu, and this simply means du by dt is equal to P inverse AP into u. So, that gives me du by dt is equal to du. So, with this transformation, this matrix D is diagonal and I have obtained a system of equations in which the matrix D is diagonal. And then we can very easily solve this system of equations, and we know from our earlier discussions that ut can be expressed as C1, an arbitrary constant, multiplied by this column vector multiplied by E into lambda 1 t. What is lambda 1? Lambda 1 is the diagonal, first diagonal element in the matrix D. Then we have add the second term here, C2 arbitrary constant, multiplied by this column vector where the second term is 1 and rest of the terms are 0, and this will be multiplied by E lambda 2t, lambda 2 being the second term in the diagonal matrix D, and so on. The last term will be Cn, the nth arbitrary constant, nth component in this vector will be 1, rest of them are 0, and multiplied by exponential of lambda n t. So, we have obtained solution ut, but our equation was in x. So, we have to transform this solution to its original coordinate system. So, that means we apply P on both the sides. So, P of ut is equal to C1 P of this vector E lambda 1 t plus C2 P of the vector multiplied by E lambda 2 t and so on, and that makes Put as x of t, the function x is a function of t, is equal to C1, and I write down P into 100. If you multiply this, if you perform this multiplication, this simply means the first row, first column of the matrix P. So, it is P1 E lambda 1 t plus C2, and this multiplication is P times 0 1 0 0 is nothing but P2. So, it is E lambda 2 t and so on, and the final term will be the last value Pn. So, it is P multiplied by this is nothing but Pn. So, we write down xt as C1 P1 E lambda 1 t plus C2 P2 E lambda 2 t and so on. So, what I am writing is that the solution vector xt is this linear combination in which P1 is the eigenvector corresponding to eigenvalue lambda 1 of the matrix D, which is the diagonal matrix similar to the given matrix A. So, solution can be easily obtained from the matrix D. So, basically what we are doing is we are diagonalizing the matrix A and then we are finding the solution in this particular manner. So, if dx by dt is equal to Ax, and lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n are eigenvalues of A, and P1, P2, Pn are eigenvectors of A, then the solution of this differential equation is expressed as this in terms of eigenvalues and eigenvectors. This gives us a procedure for solving system of equations. According to this, the step 1 constitutes the computation of eigenvalues lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n of the given matrix A. In the step 2, we compute the eigenvectors P1, P2, Pn of A corresponding to the eigenvalues lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n, and the step 3 is we compute the general solution of 1 as xt is equal to C1 P1 E lambda 1 t plus C2 P2 E lambda 2 t, and lastly Cn Pn E lambda n t. We illustrate this procedure in this example. So, a 2 by 2 matrix being given to us. First, according to first step, we have to first form the eigenvalues. For this, the characteristic equation for A is the determinant of this 2 by 2 matrix. It is simplified to lambda minus 4 multiplied by lambda minus 1 plus 2 equal to 0. We have further simplified. It is lambda square minus 5 lambda plus 6 equal to 0. And factorizing it, it is lambda minus 2 into lambda minus 3 equal to 0, and that gives us eigenvalues as 2 and 3. And from here, for lambda is equal to 2, we calculate the eigenvector by solving this equation. 2 minus 2, 1 minus 1 x equal to 0, and one can easily see that one row will be one row can be transformed to 0, and the eigenvector will be 1 comma 1 transpose. For lambda is equal to 3, we have to solve this system. 1 minus 2, 1 minus 2 x equal to 0. Again these two rows are identical, and this gives us the eigenvector as 1 comma 2. And once we have obtained eigenvalues and corresponding eigenvectors, then xt is equal to C1 multiplied by the first vector E2t, and then plus C2 the second vector 1 2 into e raised to power 3t. So, this is the solution of given system of differential equations. In this example, I have two distinct roots of the characteristic equation, and correspondingly I have got two independent eigenvectors. But there may be a situation where we have repeated roots, matrix cannot be diagonalizable, then things will be more involved. I am not discussing all these things at the moment. So, once we got this solution, then in the component form we can write down x1 as C1 E2t plus C2 E3t, that is the first component, and the second component of this vector x2 is written as C1 E2t plus 2 times C2 E3t. So, we can get this as a solution of given differential equation. Let the initial conditions be specified as x1 0 is equal to 1, x2 0 is equal to 0. See, in this equation we have two arbitrary constants involved in it. So, we in fact will have infinitely many solutions of the given system of equations, because these coefficients can take infinitely many values. So, to fix the ideas we can specify the initial conditions, and for the given initial conditions they are 2 in number. So, we can substitute them here, 2 equations, 2 unknowns, and one can solve for C1 and C2, and what we get is the particular solution. So, if we substitute this here, t is equal to 0, x1 is 1. So, left hand side is 1 and right hand side t is equal to 0, it is C1, this is 1. For t is equal to 0, this factor is also 1. So, it is C1 plus C2 from the right hand side, and similarly Substituting this in the second equation, we will have 0 on the left hand side, and on the right hand side we will have C1 plus 2C2. These two equations can be solved easily, and the solution will be C1 is equal to 2 and C2 is equal to minus 1. When we substitute this here, we get the solution x1 as 2e2t minus e3t and x2 as 2e2t minus 2c2e3t. So, in this example we have been given a system of differential equations together with initial conditions, or we say we have been given an eigenvalue problem, and this eigenvalue problem is solved using the concept of eigenvalues and eigenvectors. So, this concept is useful in solving system of first order linear homogeneous differential equations. Now, this can also be used in performing qualitative analysis of dynamical system. By qualitative analysis of a dynamical system, I mean to say that a given system dx by dt is equal to Ax, we may like to answer questions like existence of stationary solutions. That means, does the system have stationary solutions, or does there exist stationary solutions for this system, or we may like to know, are these solutions stable? So, if the stationary solution exists, are they stable, or what is the behavior of solutions as t tends to infinity, and is there any possibility that this system has a periodic solutions? So, when we discuss qualitative behavior of dynamical systems, we are actually trying to answer these questions, and these questions can very easily be answered with the help of eigenvalues and eigenvectors related to this differential system. So, let us illustrate this. For this we require concepts like equilibrium point, sometimes we call it stationary point. We define a stationary point as x0 y0 for the given system such that dx by dt is equal to 0. By this I mean that 0 0 is equilibrium point, because this system means dx by dt is equal to Ax is equal to 0. Now, Ax is a homogeneous system, and this homogeneous system will always have 0 0 as a solution. So, 0 0 is equilibrium point. There may be other equilibrium point possible for this dynamical system. For this equilibrium point or more equilibrium points, we may like to perform the phase plane analysis. By phase plane analysis, I mean to say that if x and y are state variables of phase space analysis, then what are the solution trajectories on xy plane, and these trajectories, when they are drawn on xy plane, they constitute phase portrait, and this analysis is called phase plane analysis. So, analyzing these trajectories on the phase plane comes under phase plane analysis. It is a 2 dimension, then it is phase plane analysis. If the system has more than 2 variables, then what we have is a phase space analysis. So, we try to see how these trajectories look like on xy plane. And then the behavior of solution near equilibrium point characterize the type of equilibrium point. So, what are the equilibrium points, what are their characteristics, we illustrate with the help of eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Let us see that. We have the solution of the system as xt is equal to C1 P1 E lambda 1 t plus C2 P2 E lambda 2 t for a 2 dimensional system. Now, since this solution depends upon eigenvalues lambda 1 and lambda 2, so the behavior of the solution depends upon the eigenvalues lambda 1 and lambda 2. So, we consider different cases. The case 1 is when the eigenvalues are real, and in this case I will subdivide into case 1 as eigenvalues are positive, eigenvalues may be negative, eigenvalues may be 1 positive, 1 negative. So, I will first discuss the case when eigenvalues are positive. So, if when the eigenvalues are positive and distinct, then solution goes away from 0 0 as t increases. This can be observed from this solution. When lambda 1 and lambda 2 are positive, this component will increase as time increases and will be going away and away from 0 0, and in such a situation we say the equilibrium point 0 0 is unstable. While in the second case, when the eigenvalues are negative, then these negative values means that this term as well as this term will become smaller and smaller as t increases. That means we will be going closer and closer to the equilibrium point 0 0, and this means that the equilibrium point is stable. In case 3, when one eigenvalue is positive, other is negative, we say that there are some trajectories where the solution goes away from 0 0 as t increases, because corresponding E lambda 1 t increases, but on some other trajectories the solution goes closer to 0 0 as t increases, because lambda 2 is negative, means E lambda 2 t tends to 0 as t tends to infinity for negative lambda 2. So, there are some trajectories which will go close to 0, but there are some other trajectories where solution goes away from 0 0. In such a situation, we say that the equilibrium point is a saddle point. In the next case, we consider that the eigenvalues are complex. When the eigenvalues are complex, we can write an eigenvalue lambda 1 as a plus ib, and since the complex eigenroots of our characteristic equation always occur in pair, so the second lambda 2 will be a minus ib. It is the complex conjugate of lambda 1, and if we have this lambda 1 and lambda 2, then E lambda 1 t is written as e raised to power a t plus I b t, and I b t is written as cos b t plus I sin b t. Similarly, corresponding to lambda 2, we can write down E lambda 2 t as E a t multiplied by cos b t minus I sin b t. Now, in this case, solution will depend what is the sign of A. If A is positive, then this value will remain bounded because they are sine cosine functions. So, their values cannot increase beyond 1. So, 1 or minus 1. So, this remains bounded. So, as t tends to infinity, this may go to infinity or may tend to 0 depending upon whether A is positive or negative. So, in the case when A is positive, then we will always go away from 0 because of this positive exponent, and in that case we say the solution is unstable. However, in the case 2, when A is negative, then this term will always go closer and closer to 0, and this remains bounded. So, the total term will be going closer to 0, and we say that the solution is unstable. In the third case, when A is equal to 0, then we will have a periodic solution. What we can do is that when A is equal to 0, then first part will be cos b t plus I sin b t, the second part will be cos b t minus I sin b t, and the solution will be linear combination of these two, and this linear combination can be solved and one can find out the trajectory which is periodic. So, when A is equal to 0, we will have a periodic solution. And what we are doing here is that this is the phase space, in fact the phase plane, because this is 2 dimension, this is x axis and let us say this is y axis, and when both the lambdas are positive, the solutions will tend to 0 from all the sides, whatever be the value of lambda 1 will always tend to 0 if they are negative. So, we say the solution is stable, but when both the lambdas are negative, then we will go away and away from the solution and we say solution is unstable. So, this is the behavior of the solution, whether we are going towards the equilibrium point or we are going away from the equilibrium point. If we are going closer to the equilibrium point, we say the solution is stable. When we are going away from it, it is unstable. So, these are the cases when lambda 1 and lambda 2 are real and negative. This is the case when lambda 1, lambda 2 are real and positive. In all these cases, I am considering that the two values of lambda 1 and lambda 2 are distinct. But if it is complex value and the real part is 0, then we will always have a closed trajectory, and closed trajectory means the solution is periodic. We start from this point and will always come back to that point, and this describes the periodic nature of the solution. And whether we will be moving on this curve or will be moving on this curve, that depends upon the initial distribution or initial condition specified with the dynamical system. This is the case when the solution is unstable, and this is the case when we have complex eigenvalues. And if the real part is positive, then if we start from this equilibrium, this position, then we will go away and away from the 0 equilibrium point, and we say the solution is unstable. So, when lambda 1 and lambda 2 are complex and real part is positive, then this is the direction in which we will be moving on the phase space, and we say the solution is unstable. But if we are having the real part of the complex root as negative, then if we start from this initial condition, then we will move towards the 0 equilibrium point in this manner, and we say the solution is stable. So, from wherever we start, we ultimately tend to this 0 equilibrium point, and such a point is called stable equilibrium point. So, that is how we describe the behavior of the solution on the basis of eigenvalues and eigenvectors of the given dynamical system. So, we illustrate this for some simple problems, simple physical problems. For this purpose, I start with mass spring damper system. So, we have a simple system consisting of a mass m, which is attached to a spring with spring constant k, and a damper is present in the system, in which the damping is there, which is proportional to the velocity dx by dt, and c is the damping coefficient. So, we will have m d2x dt square plus c dx by dt plus kx is equal to 0. So, this second order differential equation represents mass spring damper system. Similar type of second order equation can be obtained in RLC circuits, where L is the inductance, R is the resistance, and C is the capacitance, and E is the external EMF applied in the circuit. So, we write down the differential equation as L d2I dt square plus R di by dt plus 1 over Ci is equal to dE by dt, I being the current in the circuit. Now, if you compare these two equations, then one can easily see that these two systems are similar when I is related to x. X is the displacement in this and I is current in this. So, the two systems are identical. I is the same as x. The L inductance is identified with M in this system. R, the resistance in this RLC circuit, is identified by C in this mass spring damper system, and 1 over C, C being the capacitance, and this is identified as K in mass spring damper system. In this, I mean to say that whatever be the effect of K in mass spring damper system, the same effect is observed by 1 over C in RLC circuit. Whatever effect C is having here, same effect R is having in the RLC circuit. To solve this system, we first introduce dx by dt is equal to y, and this substitution will reduce this second order equation into two first order differential equations. So we write down dx by dt is equal to y here, and d2x by dt square will come out to be minus cy minus kx, and that makes our system as d by dt xy is equal to 0 1 minus k minus c multiplied by xy. So a second order system can be reduced to two first order differential equations. When there is no damping present, that means c is equal to 0, then we have d by dt into d by dt of xy is equal to 0 1 minus k 0 x and y. If we have to solve this system, we say the characteristic equation is lambda square plus k is equal to 0, and from here one can find out that eigenvalues are purely imaginary, and on the basis of our discussion we know that this solution is periodic solution as the values are purely imaginary. So we can solve, we can solve and we can get the solution of differential equation with the help of eigenvalues and eigenvectors. So this is the end of this lecture, and in this lecture we have started with some diagonalization of complex matrices. Then we have discussed how we can solve the ordinary differential equations, how we can solve system of ordinary differential equations, what is the role of eigenvalues and eigenvectors in predicting the behavior of solution of such systems. Thank you.
Thank you.